Hi, this is Jacqueline here with the GROW program. Thank you for tuning in. I want to expound a little bit about the quote that Dr. King said, because I had heard that this morning earlier and heard somebody say that. And it says, our lives begin to end when we become silent about things that matter. And so I was talking to someone and, I was talking about our African spirituality and different things, and what I'm learning. And so when I got done saying what I had to say, she said, well, I already knew all of that. And so, it struck me, I was like, oh, well, that's awesome. I'm glad you know. I am so glad you knew that, and I was really happy to know that she knew it. And so, we ended our conversation. And, I went on about my day, I'm going back to meditating and different things. And so I thought about that. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird, though. If you know, why didn't you tell me? You never shared nothing with nobody. You didn't tell nobody nothing. I'm just finding this out at this age. You didn't share it, is what I'm saying. So, and one thing I know about this person, and you got, this gonna help somebody. You're going through. You stop constantly going through. Ain't nothing going right. But you find out some good news that might help you and help somebody else. But instead of using that good news, you throw it away. And you steady going through job after job. Now you're going back to school, almost 50 some years old, heading back to school. And I ain't worrying about nobody listening, because people don't support you that until they see that it's really working for you, and then they want to come in on it, on the tail end of it. But that's still all right. They can come in, they can grow whenever they get ready to grow. I'm not worrying about any of that. But what I'm worrying about is, look, we got to take the doctrine and the teaching out the word, because the word is what helps us to live, people. But what you do, you don't pray to Jesus. Jesus forgave. That's what Jesus is about. He is about forgiveness. So what you do, you take that doctrine and teaching from the Bible and apply that to your life, because it says so in Mark. It says, it say this in Mark. It says, what for a man to gain a world and lose his soul? So you out here, you doing different jobs, going from job to job. Ain't no job working out for you. You don't like the people, they don't like you. Your heart ain't right. When you call somebody, you got some gossip to spread. You got something to tell, something to talk about. Instead of calling somebody with some good news that may help somebody. You doing other different things. So, and then now, you doing, it ain't nothing working out for you. You're going back to school late in life. Now you're finna get back under oppression, because now you got to be under student loans. You had to deal with all of that, trying to pay all of that back. And that's oppression. Just think about that. That's oppression. And people, we got to come out of that. We got to start thinking different. If you know something that may help somebody else, why you gonna keep that to yourself? Why would you, how do you do that? That actually kind of brought me to tears to even think about it, and how we treat one another, how we talk to one another. Ain't never got nothing good to say. Call you up and tell you something bad, tell you something somebody has said about you, tell you somebody think about you, call somebody up and tell them some good news. Say, hey, I love you. I'm thinking about you. Okay. So, people, we got to do better. We got to grow. We got to stop oppressing one another, and we got to stop oppressing ourselves. We out here, we all in the community, all on Instagram, on Facebook, on World Star, out here doing fighting, whopping, in the street. Girl, what you out there whopping for? And why you want to be out there like that? Is that what you want? Is that what you want for your life? That will you see yourself in 5 years whopping in the street? You need to be trying to learn and trying to educate yourself. Get a book in your hand and read and study. The word says study and show yourself approved. You need to learn. People need to come. You need to come out these streets because you're oppressing one another. That's all you're doing is oppressing one another, and you're oppressing yourself, and you're going to be judged for that. You're living a life in church, and you're being a hypocrite because you're being right on one day, that's Sunday, and the rest of the week you living a life of a hypocrite. You need to live a life in honor. That's what they were doing in Africa before we were kidnapped and brought over here. You need to live a life in honor, and you're supposed to come out with substance because we've been over here 400 years. So now, as it says in Genesis, we supposed to come out with substance. It's our time. It's been 400 years. We past due. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Don't look for no reparations. That ain't happening. That was a long time ago. My mom, I was talking to her about it. She said, honey, I gave up on that long time ago. I said, no, mom, I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about how we can rebuild our own wealth. Begin to rebuild in the community. People are starting to wise up. Somebody said people start to stay away from them drugs. Whatever they pushing out there in the community. Okay, you see him laying out in the street, busting his head open on the sidewalk. Why you want to go take it? Why you want to try it? What make you think you gonna be any different from him? Monkey see, monkey do. Don't do that. Don't do no drugs. Just say no. Seriously, I'm serious. Just say no. Don't do drugs. You don't need that. I'm gonna tell you something. You didn't come in this world with nothing. You didn't even come in this world with clothes. All you came in this world with was God. So that's all you need is God. So keep living a life in honor. Keep living a life in glory. Live a life as if your ancestors were right there beside you. So, people, we need to come out of this oppression and how we doing people, how we doing ourselves. Look at how you doing yourself. Look at you. What happened to the nice, wonderful person you used to be? Life, you done went through life. You done went through the battle. And now your heart is cold. Your heart is hard. You don't like folks no more. You don't hardly believe in God. You don't even think there is a God. Well, why God let this happen? Well, why God let that happen? Because you got to go through the battle so you can tell somebody the good news. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't hold that to yourself because you're going to lose your soul. It's what's going to happen. There's some soul catchers waiting in the spiritual realm. They waiting for you, and they going to get you if you don't get your heart right, if you don't get your mind right, and if you don't start living right. So people, come on, let's grow. This is church. This the word. Ain't no foolishness here. Then you just gonna get the word. Let's grow.